Jim, let's look back, because we normally talk about what's happening at the moment. Well, let's look back at horticulture. Has it changed much?
Well, over the last 35, 38 years that I've been involved, Rob, yes, it has. There's been some cycles, some being good, some being not so good. But overall, the structure of the horticulture, with the development of horticulture in New Zealand over the last sort of 15 years, having a spokesman for the smaller horticultural sectors under one umbrella going to the government has been hugely beneficial, and it really is helping the overall bigger picture of horticulture achieving the goals that they wish to achieve, which is 10 billion turnover exports out of New Zealand by 2020, and that's just 5 minutes down the road really, and that's on target. I mean, the big ones are the apples and the kiwi fruit and probably to a lesser extent onions and things like that, but then of course you've got the wine too, so there's some really big sectors in there. But there's a lot of smaller sectors that have had real cyclic problems. The berry fruit industry, the avocado industry, the tamarillo industry, to carrots and to fresh lettuce and what have you, out to Saudi Arabia and things like that. They're all there, and they're still perking away quite nicely. People don't really realise so much about those. And the interesting thing is that right at the moment, we're in really good heart as a sector of the primary industry. Apples are going, being the best quality apples we've had, and they've got good prices in Europe and Asia and America. So we've actually spread our reach there, especially into Asia, especially into America. We've got a very good kiwi fruit industry now that's single phased and marketing extremely well with a very, very good product. In that they adapted not only the green further down the track over those 35, 40 years, but also fought PSA. They've got gold out there, and now there's going to be the odd other different colour coming through. That it's all about our plant breeding, and that's really put New Zealand's kiwi fruit back in the forefront of the world, and that's just marvellous for a small country. And then you have a look at the wine industry. I mean, what a success that's been. It's so young in terms of its history, if you look at it from a global perspective. We're 35 years old or something like that in general terms, but we're punching our weight there too with very good, high quality fruit flavoured wines that they can't produce in environmentally lesser environments around Europe. So with our clear skies and our good environmental practice that we do have in New Zealand, we are producing fruit and vegetables with high flavour, high colour and good taste. And that is a reflection of the environment we actually live in.
So it's the environment and, of course, our plant breeding.
Absolutely. The base of it is plant breeding, and fortunately, over the years, the government have stumped up with some reasonable money, and the actual industry sectors themselves have said, look, we've got to be in the plant breeding game, got to be in the research game. To keep ahead. I can remember when the Braeburn apple first came to fore in the apple industry back in the very early 90s. I mean, it was way ahead of anything else in the world. Now we've taken that apple from a green-red type apple, very firm but good apple, to something that's now a much higher in colour, longer in storage, and really filling up some big gaps around the globe. And that's purely plant breeding. So
but it's still a Braeburn though.
It's still a Braeburn, and it's still an apple, and you bite it and crunch it, and it's really nice to eat. So it's spectacular. Our potato industry has been another one that's been really interesting. We've sent potatoes to Fiji and the other islands for many, many years, but now we've got gourmet potatoes, and we've got different coloured and flavoured potatoes that are going all over the world, not only but just being consumed in New Zealand. We actually stumped the Australian potato market for quite a number of years through direct plant breeding. We enjoyed that. It was really good to see. They have caught up, and now we're actually collaborating and actually doing the thing together, which is the way it should be. The black currant industry is an interesting one where it's had change, but it's the higher value products that are coming through now, and the guys are sitting down and setting some real targets, and that's once again backbone of that, plant breeding. One that I've followed probably with a fair bit of passion over the years, Rob, has been the hop industry, and today we've got a hop industry in New Zealand that has been led from its plant breeding in terms of the boutique beer industry, which is just exploding around the world. But this is the fourth time I've seen the hop industry come to a rise. The cream has come to the top, and it looks like it's got some legs and longevity now because of our unique varietals that are cultures that are actually cultivars that are actually pulling through the boutique beer industry in big beer consuming countries like Germany and other parts of Europe, and they're hitting the tops, and it's just fantastic. And that looks like it's got longer longevity than it has in the past. It used to be quite cyclic. You'd have a bit of a rush. The big breweries would come out and buy New Zealand fruit hops because the price was right. Well, the price has actually been determined now. It's not price taking. It's not price taking. It's price making, and that makes a huge difference to our horticulture.
Have we changed size and pattern? I mean, in my mind, I keep picturing market gardeners.
Yep.
And have they still got a place?
Oh, absolutely. And they're the hardest working horticulturists that you'll ever see in New Zealand. And they're mainly based around the Chinese immigrants, and they're really hard working people. And if there's ever an industry that's got to produce a product day in, day out, irrespective of rain, hail or shine, it's the vegetable industry. And once again, our vegetable breeding, our seed, a lot of hybrids. We've had a lot of hybrids, but we've also got a lot of open pollinators. And they've made a much greater difference to our vegetable, especially when it comes to colour and flavour and taste. So we're exporting a lot of fresh vegetables now as far as away as the other side of the world because of how we can fly them out or transport them out under controlled atmosphere and that sort of thing. So that's expanded that. However, we've got the the urban spread in Auckland really getting in amongst the Pukekohe guys now. Those growers that were there are obviously making quite a bit of money in terms of land value, but we're now taking those crops to Waikato, Canterbury, and it's taken a while to get the soil up to speed to produce a number of these vegetables, lettuces, cabbages, cauliflowers, broccoli, those sort of things, and they're big items now. And once you've got your soil up and running, which we've got some beautiful soils down here for those crops in Canterbury and also in the greater part of Waikato, they're really starting to expand. And it's actually it's not so much Chinese based now, it's quite cross section, and there's a lot of good New Zealanders with technology that's taking us through the whole process. And that, Rob, is actually probably one of the most significant things of the last decade has been the GPS, the technologies that have come through, the mapping, the soil profiles, all these sort of things where we're putting on the only amount of fertiliser that is required for that specific crop in that specific area. So the environmental issues aren't as described by some as being as bad as they say they are. The management is far, far way ahead of that. In fact, if you look at the regional councils, and I've been involved with them of recent times in terms of water, and the urban pollution is far greater than the rural pollution, and people just don't believe it, but it's absolutely true.
Yeah, I can believe it. I can. You look at somebody like Robin Oakley, who's going to be on the program shortly, with his candy beetroot. He's doing huge amounts of acreage, and he runs the whole thing over cell phone.
That's right. It's an incredible operation, Alpine Fresh, and he's done an extremely good job. And it just goes as an example whereby I can remember when Robin, I used to sell a lot of seed to Robin, and when Robin was trying to establish himself as the cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli master of New Zealand, which he has done, and good on him for doing it. It's a fantastic operation. But he had the supermarkets telling him how to run his business, and he said, hey, if you want this crop, you want these products at the quality you want them, and the price you want to buy them at, I've got to actually run your businesses. So they collaborated together, and they've got some really good programs now that allow the consumers to get those vegetables at the right time of the year at a very reasonable price. So it's worked for both ways. Great.
I remember when you came out with a small box of baby potatoes.
Yep.
Within 12 months, there was a range of them.
Yes.
But he moved on to the next thing.
Yep. Yeah. And that's what we've got as a little country. We are very innovative. We're way ahead. I've had trips to America. I've been lucky to have trips to America, trips to Europe, and unfortunately they're still 5 to 7 years behind us in terms of technology. The reason being we're an export country. They're a consumption country, those countries. They consume just about everything they grow. They import some stuff, thank goodness. Hopefully most of it's from New Zealand. But we rely, 90% of our horticulture is actually exported. So we've got to be right up there. And we're not going to apologise for the fact that we're up the top end of the market. We're in the niche sort of market area, which we've got to be. So the prices are higher and the markets are smaller and far more challenging. But that's where the profits, in the end, come back to the country.
I suppose to a degree now the whole world, civilised world,
Yep.
expects to be able to have a full range of everything 12 months of the year.
You're absolutely right.
So that comes into our favour.
Yep, absolutely it does. And in fact, we were shown that way back, if you can remember, back in the early 90s when Queensland tomatoes came into New Zealand right at the height of our tomatoes and or right through the winter. But what it actually did, it educated our consumers in New Zealand to eat tomatoes all year. And they got used to eating tomatoes all year round. Now we've got the breeding to actually produce tomatoes all year round and export tomatoes. So, you know, out of adversity comes, you know, opportunity, and that's a pretty good example.
People like McDonald's who grow fresh,
Yes.
and in New Zealand, they must consume a huge volume of tomatoes and lettuces, and
They do.
and yet we have to supply them 12 months
we
of
have
the
to
year.
supply them 12 months a year, and KFC with the coleslaws is absolutely huge. The cabbages that go into there are huge. You know, we can't necessarily produce them all the time, but the collaboration we've got now with our Australasian colleagues is actually working. So we're managing to you know, fulfil those markets collectively, and in some areas you just got to do that. You've got to you've got to compete. To actually come through and get the consumers solved. So compete but be competitive and be cooperative at the same time. So there's key things that have happened, Rob. Yes, we'll have some swings and lows in the future. That's life. But plant breeding, technology, and the fact that little old New Zealand can produce really high quality is a huge thing for horticulture, and it's just going to keep growing.
In spite of the weather.
In spite of the weather.
Jim, thank you very much indeed. Just a moment or two, we're going to be having a chat with Robin Oakley, who obviously we've been chatting about. He's come up with a new beet, which is apparently very old.